Hello. Hello, police. Yeah, what's the problem, sir? We just drove down our farm track. Yeah. Go and feed our pheasants. We come across a Range Rover with 3 people in it. Yeah. It appears that they're dead. I don't know what's happening. Blood in the motor all over them.
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. A mystery drug syndicate may have ordered the triple Rettendon murders that Old Bailey heard. Their target was possibly Tate, who double-crossed them over a cocaine deal, claimed defence lawyer David Rettendon QC. He said the syndicate hired a professional hitman to execute 37-year-old Tate and 2 other drug barons. Mr. Rettendon added that Tate, a gangster with a long prison record, had many enemies. He had already survived one shooting at his home in Gordon Road, Basildon. He recovered after hospital treatment. Mr. Rettendon claimed that Tate had upset the syndicate for not handing over their full share from a cocaine deal worth thousands of pounds. The barrister also claimed that Supergrass Darren Nichols, 32, was possibly involved in the syndicate and knew Tate from their days in jail. Nichols admitted to being the getaway driver, but said he knew nothing of the killings. He alleged they were ruthlessly carried out by Jack Womes, 36, and 55-year-old Michael Steele. Mr. Rettendon, who represents Womes, accused Nichols of being a liar and said he became the prosecution's star witness to save his own skin. He added, quote, "Nichols had something to do with these killings. What it was we will probably never know, and what his involvement was with this syndicate we shall never know." Mr. Rettendon insisted there was no forensic evidence to link Womes and Steele with the heartless shootings in December 1995. Nichols had said that Womes, a hefty former nightclub bouncer, had worn size 12 Wellington boots at the murder scene. There were no such footprints to match that description, added Mr. Rettendon. Also, the alleged getaway car, a VW Passat, was checked out by police scientists. They could not find any bloodstains or gunpowder inside the vehicle. The car, described as something of a heap, had 4 different makes of tyres, but none of them showed up at the snow-covered scene in Workhouse Lane, Rettendon. Mr. Rettendon, who was into the 3rd day of his closing speech, commented, quote, "It is extraordinary that not one piece of evidence, let alone a combination of evidence, was found at the murder scene to connect the 2 defendants. The scene does not support the Crown's case, and there is no evidence to confirm the account put forward by Nichols. The trial continues." The following newspaper articles from the 17th of the 12th, 1997, with the headline, "Supergrass lied in court." Supergrass Darren Nichols lied and lied over the Rettendon triple murders, a lawyer told the Old Bailey. Nichols claimed he was the getaway driver after the callous killings, but became a police informer to spare himself a murder charge, said defence counsel Edward Rees. Mr. Rees said Nichols wanted to get his own back on the 2 men he had fallen out with, Jack Womes and 55-year-old Michael Steele. He also had it in for Peter Corey, who he claimed was heavily involved in drug smuggling operations, added Mr. Rees. The barrister stressed that Nichols himself was into drugs and was a persistent liar, steeped in criminal activity. At the same time, the 32-year-old police informer was vindictive and clever with it. Mr. Rees, who represents Corey, went on, quote, "Nichols is dishonest by nature. His attitude is you are all corrupt, so do not have a go at me because I'm trying to make a living." Then Mr. Rees asked the jury, "How many allowances are you giving Nichols? You must have considerable unease about his evidence." Earlier in the trial, Nichols, an electrician from Braintree, told how he had met Womes and Steele in prison. They kept in touch afterwards, and Nichols actually worked for Steele, who was rebuilding a bungalow. Nichols maintained he was asked to act as a getaway driver for his ex-prison pals while they had a rendezvous in a quiet Rettendon farm track with 3 drug barons. He said he had waited at the start of the track for the two men to return, thinking they had fixed a lucrative cannabis deal. It was only later he alleged that he realised they had shot the drug dealers Tate, 37 of Gordon Road, Basildon, Tony Tucker, 38 of High Road, Fobbing, and Craig Rolfe, 26 of Calshot Avenue, Chafford 100, as they sat in a Range Rover. Nichols, who was never charged with the murders, has pleaded guilty to drug offences and is awaiting sentence. Womes of Main Road, Brockford, Suffolk, and Steele of St Mary's Road, Great Bentley, Essex, deny murder. They also plead not guilty, along with Peter Corey, 45 of London Road, Clacton, to conspiracy to smuggle drugs. Their case was adjourned until after Christmas. The jury will return on January the 5th, when the judge is expected to sum up in the trial, now in its 16th week. The following newspaper article is from January 1998, with the headline, "Gangland Killers Jailed for Life." The gangland slaying of 3 drug dealers in Rettendon was always going to be a tremendous task for Essex detectives. But with 2 men starting life sentences for the murders, it was clearly not impossible. The execution-style killing of Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe by Michael Steele and Jack Womes revolved around an international drugs deal which turned sour. It plunged former Superintendent Ivan Dibley into the biggest investigation of his career, just 4 months before he was due to retire. And the detective who took over the inquiry, Detective Superintendent Brian Story, said this week he was both satisfied and delighted by the verdict. More importantly, it has sent a message to all criminals that even those seen as big league are not immune from justice. The verdict comes after an investigation and trial revealing some breathtaking statistics. During the 2-year investigation, a team of about 25 detectives took over 1,000 statements and completed 5,000 actions. During a 21-week Old Bailey trial, the Metropolitan Police supplied daily 72 officers to provide round-the-clock personal protection for each and every jury member. The main prosecution witness was in the box almost continuously for an amazing 25 days. The judge took 7.5 days to sum up, and the jury took less than 5 to convict, delivering a unanimous verdict. It was certainly worth the wait, and waiting was something the inquiry team were used to. Superintendent Story explained, quote, "We had an idea very early on who was responsible for the murders, and an early arrest may have provided additional forensic evidence. But there were other risks to consider. The nature of the people involved meant an early arrest could frighten off vital witnesses, and also meant the murderers might restrict their criminal activities. Essex Police chose to sit tight, and it paid off. Quote, "We took a calculated risk, but we wanted to ensure that we were in the best possible position evidentially before we made a move," said Mr. Story. The villains were active and dangerous criminals who were aware of how to cover their tracks and conceal forensic evidence, even down to knowing what clothes to wear. Steele also admitted in court that he believed he was under constant surveillance by both police and customs. Ironically, it was the use of their mobile phones and careful analysis which helped secure their convictions. Mr. Story said, quote, "Steele's downfall was partly due to the fact that he thought he was untouchable and thought he would never get caught. By biding our time, we proved him wrong. How long the message will last, I don't know. But the message is that no matter how professional you are or think you are, and no matter how well you have planned your crime or think you have, you are not immune. A meticulous investigation and, of course, a few lucky breaks can make even these crimes solvable." Labelled a one-witness trial, Mr. Story admits that the key prosecution was of vital importance to the investigation. He said, quote, "I always thought we would have enough to make an arrest, but not necessarily enough to convict. We had a lot of information from the public, but very little cooperation from those close to the victims because of the nature of the crime. The key was getting someone who knew what went on that night to talk. The investigation relied heavily on us using a full range of policing skills. The only way to combat these professional criminals was to use every aspect of policing available, and the outcome is a tribute to all of those involved, not only within Essex Police, but within the other agencies who assisted us, such as HM Customs and CERCS, and we thank everyone involved, no matter how small their role." Okay, I'll just cut in here at the end of this article, as this is from a newspaper publication which is released by the police themselves, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, it's by The Law, and the person who wrote this article was Kim White. So this is like, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe this is like an internal publication for the police. But what I find interesting in this article, and also when we go back to the book Blogs 19, is they talk there about, you know, okay, no one close to the victims was willing to talk. We knew who it was early on, right? Okay. And it's just, none of it actually makes any sense. Because in the book Blogs 19, which was written by Tony Thompson and co-written by Darren Nichols, it was a very well-researched book. In that book, it talks about Ivan Dibley, and he mentions in the book, Ivan Dibley himself, that 36 hours after the murders, Donna Jaggers, who was Craig Rolfe's common-law girlfriend or common-law wife, she came forward and said they were going to meet Mick the pilot that night, and then by some sort of stroke of, I guess, magic or luck, whatever you want to call it, Ivan Dibley was in the police canteen, and he spoke to one of the people there. And he said, oh, you don't happen to know a Mickey the pilot, do you? Oh, well, yeah, I do actually, yeah, Michael Steele, yeah. But yeah, you read a publication like this, and it mentions there that no one close to the victims was willing to talk. And this was also mentioned in other newspaper articles from Ivan Dibley himself. So we have a complete contrast in a lot of ways. On one hand, we have Donna Jaggers supposedly coming forward 36 hours after the murders, saying it's Mickey the pilot, giving all the information about Michael Steele, basically, and leading them on that trail, if you will, towards Michael Steele. But then we don't have Donna Jaggers' official statement appearing till, what was it, March 1996, off the top of my head? Like months after the murders, yet she came forward supposedly 36 hours after they were killed with all this information. Yet she wasn't called into the police station until March, when the gun that she had, the machine gun that she had in the loft, which was part of Tucker, Tate and Rolfe's arsenal, if you will, when she handed that gun over, she then gave her statement. So just something doesn't feel right about all of this. It never has done for me. Because as I say, a lot of publications say we had literally no help at all from those close to the victims. No one came forward. No one wanted to talk. So then, how did they know who it was early on? It's absolute rubbish. It really is. I'm just going to try and find that paragraph again here quickly before we finish. Here we go. We had an idea very early on who was responsible for the murders, and an early arrest may have provided additional forensic evidence. Okay, so how did you know early on if no one close to the victims was willing to talk? Yet Donna Jaggers is one of the most damning statements in the entire case. So how did they get a lead? How did they get a lead if there was no one who was willing to talk? They pulled in Darren Nichols, what was it, in May 1996, I believe? So that's not like straight after the murders, is it? This is why none of it makes any sense. Even when we go back to how the crime was investigated at the earliest stage, within like 48 hours, Ivan Dibley's talking about, okay, the killer may well have travelled down in a Range Rover, well, which he happened to do. There may have been someone waiting down the lane for them as well. So there's two people. And also there'll be a third person in a getaway car waiting nearby. So it's almost like he painted the exact picture of what happened almost immediately, which I've always found incredibly bizarre. Yet we have this, as I say, this just complete contrast of we knew who it was, but no one was talking. Right, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Yet we have Donna Jaggers, who supposedly gave all the information, yet her statement doesn't appear until March 1996. Yet Detective Inspector Ivan Dibley claims that he knew who it was or started to get on the trail of Michael Steele 36 hours after they were killed. So make your own mind up. Can you make sense of that at home? If you can, leave a comment in the comments section below and we can discuss that. If you would like to learn more about the Range Rover murders, then click on the video in front of you now. You will also see the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.